This is Common Filth Extra, episode 37. This is a place for friends. Wasn't that the old MySpace tagline? Yeah, we got social media on the brain here because we're going to talk about something. We are going to talk about one of my arch rivals, Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg's virtual hell. Avatar friends. Facebook White House secret talks over future internet. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is very important. Because what we're about to read here is the unfiltered desire of this nut job that is Mark Zuckerberg, who in a sane society would be in prison. Why does he want to strap virtual reality helmets onto everyone? Why? From the Daily Mail, Mark Zuckerberg reveals virtual reality Facebook billionaire CEO chats to his wife, checks on his dog, and takes a family snap with a virtual selfie stick and Blockbuster demo. The VR headset was launched in the US in March 2016. Facebook has unveiled the first virtual reality version of its software. Mark Zuckerberg showed off the firm's first attempt at social software for the Oculus Rift headset at the Oculus Connect conference in San Francisco. He also revealed the firm was developing a new mid-range VR headset and said its eventual aim was a pair of VR and AR sunglasses. The first virtual family portrait Mark Zuckerberg showed off the firm's software for the Oculus Rift headset at the Oculus Connect conference in San Francisco. The new software allows people to join the same virtual space and do everything from watch a video to be transported to the surface of Mars. Zuckerberg was able to transport participants to live video feeds of his office and home and even call his wife, all in a virtual world. And he's like a little cel-shaded character here. Doesn't look much like him. Looks much less reptilian. Zuckerberg, okay, I read that part. He then took out a virtual selfie stick to snap a picture and send it to his Facebook page with a single click. Look, you could already do all this shit in Meat Space, and it's just as stupid here as it is there. So why does he want to do it? Is there an ulterior motive? This doesn't seem like anything different. You'd still engage in your self-worship with your selfie stick and take pictures of yourself. Give your soul away to a digital device. In Meat Space, you can do it. Nothing you can't do in virtual reality that you can't do here. So what is it? What's his goal? What's his aim? Do you think world government might have something to do with it? Now, I know this is kind of Alex Jonesy here, but Facebook and many other mega corporations like it have more money than many governments. They could go to any government right now and say, we'll buy you. We're going to rename this place Facebook Land, where our Jew-Chinese aristocracy will reign supreme. But I have to ask myself, would it be any different than what we have now? Ruled over by Zuckerberg, the Zuckerberg-Chan clan, would it be any different than what we have now? After all, their demands reflect the demands of the common people. Mark Zuckerberg says any criticisms of homosexuals is hate speech. So does any other social media platform, even though they seem to be a little bit more lenient for the time being with regard to that issue. Isn't it strange how our elites all promote sodomy? Isn't it strange that all of them either are sodomites or promote it, which in my eyes makes you the same thing. If you find something in common with butt fuckers and child rapists, then you're the same. I don't care what you do or don't do. You are the same as them. You're just as odious, just as... Never mind. You know where I'm going with it. But would it be any different? No. And why do they promote it? Why do they promote faggotry? Why do they promote homo? The homo demon, as Pastor James David Manning would put it. Why do they unleash it? Why do they think that sodomy, same-sex relationships, are a good thing? Why? Because they know it makes us weak. They know that the sodomite only cares about sodomy. Let me tell you something about sexual sin here. Nobody makes a religion out of killing people. Sure, human sacrifice might be a part of it, but they still feel recoil when engaging in human sacrifice, or else they do it constantly. So yeah, human sacrifice might be a part of some primitive religions, but the killing never becomes a religion itself. Sodomy and other sexual sin, cummies, jizz, tingles, that becomes religion to the sodomite. That is the sodomite's religion. They orient their entire being around it. And this cannot be denied. After all, how many millions of people attend gay pride parades every year? Millions in America. So no, sodomy is not just another sin. If it was just another sin, you'd be able to criticize it like you would theft. You would be able to criticize it like murder. You'd be able to criticize it like sloth, laziness, wrath, having a bad temper. You know, you could say, hey, you're losing your temper there. And people you could get away with saying that. Nobody's going to think less of you. Nobody's going to start a witch hunt because you said that somebody, they need to watch their temper. But that's a flaw. That's just a minor flaw that can be fixed. Laziness you can overcome that. You can overcome laziness. You can overcome a bad temper, a quick temper. These are flaws, not defects. Like this mouse wheel here. Kind of loud, right? I'd say that's a flaw, but I'm still able to use a mouse wheel as it's intended to function, which is to scroll through a page that, is large. The content on it is larger than my screen can accommodate it, so I scroll to get through all the content contained with it. See, if I were scrolling this mouse and it wasn't scrolling, that would be a dysfunction. Somebody could be lazy, but you could still reason with them. Someone can have a quick temper, but you'd still reason with them. A sodomite, however, you cannot reason with them. You can say, what you're doing is wrong, dysfunctional, here's reason A, B, C, all the way to Z, and they won't listen to you. That is a defect. Wanting to use your ability to give life and use that energy and expend it on that which only can give death, which is to say you are using the sexual energy against something that is sexually incompatible with you, which is to say there's no chance of a baby happening. All right, that's what it comes down to. It's a defect, not just some personality flaw. Okay, we already discussed what personality flaws are. Sodomites are defective. Mark Zuckerberg is defective because you can't reason with him. He keeps doing it. You can show all of the reasons why sodomy is defective, but he won't listen to you. Sodomites are the most megalomaniacal people on the planet. And Mark Zuckerberg is proof. Why does he have fantasies about world domination if he wasn't a complete megalomaniac? And this comes from the Washington Post. Facebook is talking to the White House about giving you free internet. Here's why that may be controversial. Again, he wants to turn you into a human battery. He wants to put you within his simulation so that he may do to your mind whatever he wants. His vision for the world, man's image in man. A reptile's vision of man, the image of man. Do you want to be made in the image of a reptile? Do you want to be made in the image of a reptile? Which is what Mark Zuckerberg is. So Facebook, this is from the Washington Post. The title of the article, you can type this into your search engine of choice here. It says, Facebook is talking to the White House about giving you free internet. Here's why that may be controversial. So that's the title. Facebook has been in talks for months with U.S. government officials and wireless carriers with an eye towards unveiling an American version of an app that has caused controversy abroad, according to multiple people familiar with the matter. The social media giant is trying to determine how to roll out its program known as Free Basics in the United States without triggering the regulatory scrutiny that effectively killed a version of the app in India earlier this year. If Facebook succeeds with its U.S. agenda for Free Basics, which has not been previously reported, it would mark a major victory for the company as it seeks to connect millions more to the web and to its own platform. The U.S. version of Free Basics would target low-income and rural Americans who cannot afford reliable, high-speed internet at home or on smartphones. The app does not directly pay for users' mobile data. Rather, it allows users to stretch their data plans by offering, in partnership with wireless carriers, free internet access to resources such as online news, health information, and job leads. Just the news that he wants you to see, not the news that I tell you. No, I wouldn't have any room on a platform like Free Basics. And isn't this just the next step for the internet and becoming television, where you get your Facebook, your New York Times, your whatever, your Snapchat, you get them like channels. You get websites like channels. Seems to me where that's leading, if he has his way. But look, the problem here is that a person like Zuckerberg, who's not that much older or younger than you or I, he's too successful too soon. He made a clone of MySpace, and now look at it. He has all this unearned money, and he has no idea the power that it has. Or he does, but he's very evil about it. One of the two. Either way, it ends up evil all the same. Because he wants to turn you into human batter. He wants to put you within his digital governance system. This is his aim. Sodomites are megalomaniacs. They all are. Without exception, and this is just another piece of proof of that assertion. But I bring up MySpace because look at the guy who invented MySpace, who I pulled up here. I was actually going to talk about him. That's why I was talking about a place for friends. Because that was the old MySpace thing, if I'm not mistaken, the slogan. So he's the American co-founder of the social networking website MySpace, which he founded in 2003 with Chris DeWolf. He was later president of MySpace and a strategic advisor for the company until he left in 2009. As of October 2014, this is from Wikipedia, by the way, Anderson is popularly known as MySpace Tom. This is because until 2010, he would automatically be assigned as the first friend of new MySpace users upon the creation of their profiles. Now, this is somebody who I actually respect a lot more than somebody like Mark Zuckerberg, regardless of whatever his proclivities may be. They may be just as deviant, just as terrible as Zuckerberg's. But here's what we know of MySpace Tom Anderson's wealth. MySpace was sold to News Corporation in 2005 for $580 million. A lot of money. Following the News Corp acquisition, Anderson said, "Before the acquisition, I could do whatever I wanted. Now it takes more time to get people to agree on things. All the budget reviews and processes, that can be a pain, but it's not stopping us." Reuters quoted an unnamed News Corp executive, quote, "Tom was responsible for the product, but ended up being a complete bottleneck on getting things done," unquote. Anderson was replaced as president in April 2009 by News Corp. By 2010, he was no longer the default friend on MySpace and was replaced by a profile called Today on MySpace, or TOM. In late May 2012, Anderson announced that he would be joining Rocket Frog Interactive as an advisor to the 16-person Los Angeles, US-based company, which created a Facebook app. However, in a September 2014 interview, Anderson did not mention any advisory roles in his life at the time, while his Twitter blurb in October 2014 reads, enjoying being retired, and there it is. He rode off into the sunset gracefully, as far as we know. He explained in the interview that he is not interested in returning to his previous vocation, but concluded, "I'll never say never, because more than anything, I like the idea that anything can happen. I don't know exactly where my life will lead. Adventure and the unknown has always been appealing to me." And I bring this up because I did follow him on his Facebook page for a time. I don't know how often he updates it, but yeah, it was brought to my attention that he's interested in travel and photography. That's what he's doing with his fortune that he earned. He's not a megalomaniac. He has no dreams of world domination like Montana Max over there at Facebook. It says he following an experience with photography at the 2011 Burning Man Festival. Groan. That's a strike against you, buddy. Anderson's interest in his own photography was piqued. In a September 2014 ABC News interview, Anderson credited friend and photographer Trey Ratcliffe for facilitating his skill development and explained, "I'm not necessarily trying to represent nature exactly. I'm trying to make something beautiful like a painter would." Anderson travels globally with friends to locations such as Thailand and Myanmar, where he primarily focuses on landscape images. And then he explained that his personal interests have always been diverse. Again, this is MySpace Tom. "If you knew me before MySpace, you'd probably thought I'd been a scholar teaching philosophy in a university my whole life. If you met me before college, you'd probably thought I'd be a musician for my entire life. I like change. So you can tell this Tom Anderson fella, MySpace Tom, he prefers the development and improvement of the self above whatever harebrained scheme he has for the entire world. Remaking the world in his image. He has no desire to do that. Maybe he has some ideas for the world that he'd like to see. He has some changes he'd like to see in the world that I disagree with. But perhaps he has the humility to understand that maybe those ideas he has aren't that great for the entire world. Maybe be good for his ego, maybe not. I don't know. This is all assumption here. The fact of the matter is, this guy has a ton of money. And he is a far better steward of that wealth than Mark Zuckerberg. I'll say it again. Zuckerberg, if we lived in a sane society that valued self-preservation, he'd be in prison. He'd be some black guy's prison bitch. That's what he's earned in his life. But we don't see it that way. See, men aren't very good at justice. And that's proof. People always ask me, why does God allow bad things to happen? Who's to say it's bad? We say it's bad. Does God say it's bad? No. He causes our folly to show that we should not place our faith in man. We should not place our faith in people like Zuckerberg. We shouldn't place our faith in people like Tom Anderson, but it's a comparison. He exists as a counterpoint to Mark Zuckerberg's psychosis. Because whatever flaws, whatever defects Tom Anderson may have, they seem to be pretty self-contained, don't they? He's a lot different than other whites. As we know, whites are descended from Japheth. If we go biblically, if we go by Genesis, descended from Japheth. Japheth spread across Europe. And the Hebrew word for Japheth, you know where Japheth comes from? It comes from the Hebrew word for something that roughly translates to expand or expansion, which is precisely what whites do. We expand, we expand, we expand. We never fucking stop colonizing. We never stop having racially confused half-breeds with illiterate natives. We've never stopped that. We realize we've tried to escape from ourselves, and instead of mastering ourselves, we expand. Instead of improving ourselves, we try to improve the world in our perverse image. Colonization is proof of that. Now, let me guess. Now it's going to be, colonization. It didn't really happen. That's going to be the next rationalization for it. Point being is this. The tribe of Ashkenaz was descended from Japheth. Follow the lineages. Ashkenaz begat Zuckerberg, who's doing his own brand of colonization all around the world. But Tom, MySpace Tom, he took that impulse that he has to expand and explore and conquer. He took that impulse and redirected it in a far healthier way. Instead of remaking the world in his perverse image, he goes out into that world and takes pictures of it. That's one of his interests. Instead of raping locals and impregnating them with his, what would be a half-breed, instead of doing that, he takes pictures and he wants to transform nature through photography. He wants to take photographs of things that people like him don't typically get to see. He finds value in it, and that's what he does. And there is value in it. Let me tell you what there isn't value in. Abortion, baby killing, avoiding consequences, which is what we're going to get to next. This comes from the Common Filth subreddit. Not from the question and comment thread, but a great thread anyway. It says, Poland almost bans abortion, but they got scared from low-energy fedora. CNN.com, Poland abortion ban rejected. It says, Poland's parliament withdraws proposed abortion ban. Took a while to load there. Poland's parliament has withdrawn proposed legislation that would have imposed a near-total ban on abortion in the country. And then you see a bunch of white girls protesting, holding up coat. There's a there's somebody holding up a drawing of panties with a coat hanger in the middle. And then there's like a mannequin, a part of a mannequin with a coat hanger on top there. And you see a redheaded girl wearing black lipstick. See a girl with some stuff on her, painted onto her face. And they're all protesting. Polish women take part in a nationwide strike and demonstration to protest against a legislative proposal for a total ban of abortion. I'm ashamed to be Polish. I am of Polish ancestry. And it's really a shame to be white, but for the reasons they don't tell you in school. They think abortion and sodomy are great things. That's what your teachers will tell you. And white people, that's what they promote. Look, I only say it because I don't want to be associated with it, but I have no choice. People look at me, people look at them. People will say, hey, they look like you. Those are your people. But I don't want them to be my people if this is what they defend, promote, proliferate. And a few days ago, I read, thousands of women set to protest Polish abortion ban in Poland. And I thought, it's over. You know, once women start to protest it, unfortunately, European men listen to their women far too much when it comes to things that don't fucking concern them. Let's just be blunt here. The only thing that a man needs to listen to his wife on is the conduct of the household. The state of the household. That's what the man needs to listen to when it comes out of the mouth of a woman. That's what he needs to listen to. That's it. Anything else, any political decision, any legislative decision, you give the middle finger. You say, fuck you, bitch. I'm not listening to you. But apparently, Polish men, they're like the rest of Europe's men. Beta, or, depending on your mood, omega, until the bitter end. The bitter end. I want to be able to touch her vagina. She won't let me touch her if I'm pro-life, if I'm anti-abortion. I guess I better listen. Seeing the conduct of your average European man, is it any surprise that Islam's taken over? Might makes right. You might even just say might makes. And European men have none. They can only do shit with permission. Beta until the bitter end. Beta until the bitter end. And the end will be most bitter. A lot of people like to say Europe won all these wars, we're the best at conquest. Because it's not very brave to do that. It's not brave to kill people with permission. It's not brave to do something legally through the system. Cowards. You're all a bunch of fucking cowards. And look, when I say Europe, I mean racially. It's no different here in America. No different at all. But the original poster on Reddit who brought this to our attention says, they failed. Looks like everyone who said all these great things about Eastern Europe just got BTFO. Blown the fuck out, if you don't know what that means. It looks like every woman in the entire nation was out there with their umbrellas like a bunch of cockroaches. Now we know where their priorities are. And the replies, which are fantastic. It says, a Polish woman has a sign that says, I can have a safe abortion. Why can't she? Pointing to something. The sign pointing to something. This woman, somebody points out that, the reply to this says, that woman in the bottom left who's holding the I can have a safe abortion sign is way too old to be having abortions. On the other hand, she definitely should be having them because her eggs are probably rotten by now, since she looks 50. Well, that's maybe why we're having so many autistic children nowadays, is that women like her are getting pregnant, and then the biological instinct kicks in. It's like, oh shit, my only fruit, I better hold on to this one. But killing babies is evil no matter what, no matter if they're in the bodies of old women or young. Killing babies is wrong. It is wrong. I don't care if it's a white baby, a black baby, whatever. Killing innocents is wrong, no matter who does it. Now, do you want to be right or do you want to be wrong? I don't know why people, especially whites, are so afraid of being right. They want to be wrong. Like, they value cum and socialization above truth. It's pathetic. And then another reply. Well, the media were yelling that this bill will mean that women won't have access to the ultrasound, or that doctors that abort a child to save the mother's life will be punished, and other lies of this sort. None of these things can be found anywhere in the proposed bill. And of course, dumb shiksas were too stupid to actually read the damn thing. Yeah, that reminds me of the Indiana Religious Freedom Bill that Mike Pence, put forth, signed into law back in 2015. Nobody actually read it. It made no mention of sodomy or any specific religion. But some sodomite got a hold of it and says, religious freedom? That means it's homophobic. What does it say that religions that developed in different parts of the world at different times all condemn this shit? You know, there is such a thing as a lowest common denominator, and the lowest common denominator realizes that this is an offense to humanity, the sodomite, which is why every serious religion prohibits sodomitic behavior. You know, the Constitution in the United States in particular, and I'll get back to the Poland thing here, it says that you cannot prohibit the free exercise of religion. Nor should you establish an official religion. Nor will an official religion be established. That is, it's closer. In other words, no state religion. But the bill in Indiana it didn't say anything. Didn't mention Christianity, Islam, none of it. Didn't mention any of those religions by name, and it wasn't a very long bill. I remember I was right here reading the bill. I did a Control F search for Christianity, gay, homo, whatever. Any phrase you can imagine pointing to a specific establishment or an affirmation of any religion, any particular branch, none of it. It wasn't in there. That's a problem. That's also a problem in Poland because, like this says, nobody actually reads things. Somebody just hears somebody like, oh my god, this means they want to do this, this, and this. Even though it's not true, but everybody's like, that person said it, therefore. And then once they do read it, they have that premise in mind that this bans ultrasounds, this bill bans, doctors who have to kill the baby to save the mom's life, which never happens, by the way, but we'll go with it. Even if it's not in there, they'll be like, well, this kind of says this, and it could be used for that. That's how they'll rationalize it. Their mind's already made up, and that's just how the human mind works. Once the passions are inflamed, it's difficult to extinguish them. So it says, and of course, dumb shiksas are too stupid to actually read the damn thing themselves, so it was easy to get them to come out. Well, of course, anytime you threaten consequences for somebody's actions, that you actually have to see through the consequences of your action, whites in particular get very, 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 very angry. They think that because they go to jail less, they think they're entitled to escape the consequences of anything, even if that consequence isn't legal. Even if that's just a biological consequence, which is what pregnancy is from sex. It's a consequence of sexual activity. If you're doing it the right way, but, knowing Europe, they don't even know what fucking proper sexual activity is. Overall, the turnout was not as large as I thought it would be, considering the whole smearing campaign of Gazeta Wyborcza. I think that's how you pronounce that. Even though I am mostly Polish, I think. It's a little bit cloudy, but yeah, I don't know how to say Polish shit. And the opposition parties, add to that the number of protesters given by city governments is almost double of what the police says. I don't know who's right. Oh well, they wanted their smokescreen for CETA. They've got it. It was passed and hardly anybody notices. Cummies win. That's another comment. I don't get why people think Eastern Europe is that great. They, except for Poland and Bosnia, have some of the highest abortion rates in Europe. And a response here. It says, I live in Estonia. The comment sections on the newspapers are like Pol incarnate, politically incorrect incarnate. You see terms like Juda Ciklid and Oy vey being thrown around indiscriminately. But when this Polish abortion thing kicked off, the discussion took a staunch pro-choice discourse. Not even we are safe from the Kali Yuga. Pro tip, Eastern Europeans, get ready to ride the tiger because we're not that different from France or Sweden. The only degenerate thing we hate is multiculturalism, everything else called kosher. Well, these self-inflicted baby killing, it's like, fucking, at least brown people are having babies. I mean, yeah, at least you compare the two. You look at look, the brown people are having babies. The people in the multicultural society who are benefiting from it are having babies. And they actually want to have babies. They're actually interested in the opposite sex, as reflected by their birth rates. Reply to that kind of plays into the whole thing about how people don't want their cummies taken away, even if they have even if they have based opinions about immigration. That's the problem with whites as well. It's like we agree with somebody on one thing, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh my god, they're so cool." It's ridiculous. It's like, who gives a fuck? There's nothing There's nothing brave about opposing people living in your house. Strangers living in your house. Opening your door and crashing. Nothing brave about that. That's just common sense. The European mind is so depraved that we now think that's a controversial stance to take. It's not. No, what requires courage is actually criticizing your own. Telling somebody that their breath stinks. Telling somebody that you are a fuck up, quit being a fuck up. That takes courage. That takes bravery. Not, oh, we should limit immigration. We should build a wall. That's not brave. That's just a fucking default. Eastern European countries have low birth rates and will still die. Urban environments coupled with our low religiosity will be our demise. There are 900,000 Estonians left in the world. Can we really survive this time? Can pause accomplish what 7 years of German occupation couldn't? After the Northern War around 1700, there were 12,000 Estonians left, and we still survived. So I still believe in our blood of steel. There's nothing left but to put our faith in God only and pray Him to spare the righteous. Well, He will, but it ain't going to be 900,000 of them. And then this is a product, somebody says, is a product of legacy of communist rule. They're trying to recover the things that were attempted to be wiped off by the communists. That is a Christian civilization. Of course, if it stands in the way of tingles, in the giny or the pee-pee, throw Jesus off to the side for a bit, well, permanently, really. I mean, look at what Trump did. We'll protect our LGBTQ people. Why? It's dead weight. Get rid of it. You don't need to protect it. You don't need to protect it. You don't need to protect it. But he does. What does he value? He's been pro-sodomite longer than he's been anti-immigration. That's for damn sure. Look at how he behaved with his fucking mentor, Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn, the pederast. Jeffrey Epstein, another good friend of Trump's. Another pederast. Huh. It's almost as if the guy keeps a certain type of company, right? He gives his Christian daughter off to a Jewish guy. Tells you what he values. Life in Eastern Europe is like the game Stalker, except worse. And then another one, last one. I remember this one experiment with a monkey, or was it a mouse, that was presented with two buttons. One given food, the other a pulse that gave the test subject an orgasm-like sensation. The test subject died from starvation. And then there you have it. White nations, white people, we're rats. We're worse than rats. Because a rat doesn't have capacity anywhere near the human mind. And when you fail to live up to your potential by acting like a rat does in an experiment, or a monkey, whatever it is, a monkey or a mouse, still, neither of which has the capacity coming anywhere near what a human has. And humans choose to act like the mouse. Humans choose to act like the monkey. Whites in particular. Worse than monkeys, worse than apes, worse than mice. Again, this is not an opinion. This is a fact. This is how they're behaving. Mocummies, how dare you? Raising a baby might take away precious sex time. That's what white people think. Do we not see that everything we do breeds weakness? Everything we do is self-destructive. Humans are not built for paradise. We think we are. We try to create it for ourselves, and it just ends up worse. Humans are not meant to live in a temporal, worldly, material paradise. It never has. It never will. So we have a little bit more to get to here. If I may find it here. This is just sick. And I learned more about drugs than I had ever known before with this screenshot here. I'm going to type this in to make sure I got the right drug. Naloxone, naloxone, I don't know how do you say it. But it's used to treat a narcotic overdose. And what it cures, what kind of narcotic? Yeah, heroin, right? Heroin. It is included as a part of emergency overdose response kit distributed to heroin and other opioid drug users and emergency responders. So that's naloxone, whatever you say. Naloxone. You know, a lot of people like to say drug users are smarter. No, they use their IQ points to rationalize their drug use and to learn everything about it. That's what they use their mental energy towards. And really, if they're using it towards that, it's a complete fucking waste. Let me tell you something. There's no such thing as a nice heroin user. A heroin user with the heart of gold, they're all pieces of shit. You can't show me one that is not a piece of fucking shit. They have the right idea in the Philippines, and it's amazing that nobody ever thought of it before them. Or maybe they did, we just forgot about it. But we're going to use them. They kill their druggies. They kill anybody associated with the drug trade. You think that if druggies were smart, they'd gentrify their areas? They don't. They're always the worst subhuman pieces of shit you could possibly imagine. Because subhumans and pieces of shit use this shit exclusively. So here's what it says. This is from a local news channel, and this is in Columbus, Ohio, which is in that area, West Virginia to Ohio. That is currently experiencing a very serious heroin epidemic. It says community in crisis from Columbus Public Health. If you're going to use, have someone present. Take turns so someone is always conscious. These are their tips for using heroin safely, and have naloxone ready and available. So here they are telling people, well, you're gonna use, so no, not just stop using. Go to a fucking methadone clinic. No, none of that. Use, but just be careful, okay? This is another problem that whites have. We always address fools by their folly. We think like, well, it's your decision, so I'm not gonna judge it or anything. But, just be careful, alright? It's always this middle of the road bullshit, lukewarm bullshit. As we read in Revelation, hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out. That's what Jesus said. And he's right. We are a race of just lukewarm pussies who can't make a decision one way or another. We're a bunch of amoral nut jobs. And it'll never change. Because we just have enablers out there. People who sense something's wrong, they still can't put their finger on it because they don't want to, because it'll say something about themselves and they're too prideful to admit that, you know what? I am confined by my genetic circumstances, and here's what my genetic circumstances enable. They can't say that white people are fucked up and that most of what we do is fucked up. We need to do the opposite of what we think is the right thing to do. And what we think is the right thing to do as well, we just need to give a safe space to heroin users. We just need to, make sure they're doing it safely, and it'll be okay. I'm going to recommend you a book. It's called The Heroin Diaries. It's by a musician. I forget who. But get that book. Find it. Read it. And understand what drug addiction really is. Because that's somebody who lived it, and you know what? The last thing he needed was a safe space. His whole life was a fucking safe space to do it. Because he had just nothing but a circle of enablers around him. That's it. That's what he had. Canada legalized fucking prescription heroin recently. They also recently legalized dog fucking. No, I'm not making that up. They legalized bestiality. Not making that up, Canada. And we're not too far behind here in America. I read a story once. Horse sex is on the rise in Switzerland. We are fucked up beyond belief. And it's up to us to decide if it's too late to stop it. Because if we keep carrying on the way we're carrying on, thinking like, oh, all our problems are just, it's a Jew's fault or it's a brown person's fault. If we keep carrying on that way, it's over. And you know what? From where I stand, it's closer to the end than it is to a revival. So once you lose it, you can't get it back. And we address a fool by his folly. Just imagine if you treated any other addiction like we treat drug addiction. Oh, well, you're a sex addict? Well, we just need to give you a safe space to do it. Here's a complimentary prostitute. That doesn't cure it. It doesn't address the underlying fucking issue. You imagine? If we did that to a gambler, here's your private own personal slot machine. Here's $20 in quarters. Here's $20 of nickels. It's lunacy. We think that if somebody makes a conscious decision to do something, that renders that decision fine. You know, nationalists like to say, oh, I believe in the right to self-determination for everybody. This is something I've said before. But what I didn't consider is what we are self-determined to do. And we are self-determined to hell.